As I always say, entrepreneurship is like personal development on crack. Now, marketing your business, that's a whole lot more. This is exactly why I created the Broadcast Room, which is my membership on finding your authentic voice, creating messaging so potent and so clear that it speaks directly to your dream clients, and also how to sell online that feels like deep service. I know that there's so many people who really fear selling online, which is why today, this entire episode is around the very normal fears that come up when you are marketing yourself online. There's 3 fears that come up for my clients inside of the Broadcast Room. The first one is the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment is one of the most common out of all of these. And this is, if I show up as myself, if I show up without a script, if I show up without the filter, if I show up and say the things I actually want to say, what is actually going to be on the other side of that? And generally, the thing that we will kind of experience the most is, what if I'm judged for using my voice? What if I'm judged for the way that I look? What if I'm judged for the way that I sound? What I generally will say to that specific point is, on a biological level, there is a sense of belonging that we always want to have. We want to fit in. We want to feel like we belong. And when you are standing in your truth and standing in your brand and standing in this space of, I want to attract my dream client, we need to be able to recognize what comes up for us, which is, if I say the thing that I want to say, how will it be perceived? Now, the thing that I want you to remember in the fear of judgment is, number 1, judgment in itself is usually going to be mirrored back to you. So I would love to ask you, where are you currently judging yourself? Where are you being more critical of the words that you say, or the way that you look, or the way that you show up in your business? Because the way that we are fearing judgment is generally what we've already potentially judged within ourselves. So I'm going to give you an example of this. Back when I was a very early entrepreneur, I had a lot of fears around the way that I looked. I had a lot of fears around my skin or my body or my hair. And so unconsciously, I held all of that. But when I was showing up online, I was really afraid. What if someone says something about the way that I look? What if someone says something that I believe to be true? And it required a lot of me sitting down and saying, okay, the only way that I'm not going to be afraid of being judged is if I start to honor all of those parts of myself. And did that happen overnight? No. But was it the best thing that I've ever done? Absolutely. It is always going to be the best thing that we ever do in our entire lives, to be able to start honoring the parts of us that maybe we have pointed at or placed blame on. If we're going to be able to show up in the way that we desire to, it's okay if you don't feel 100% confident in the way that you sound or the way that you look or the offers that you sell. But the truth is that it will always be worth it when you take the moment to recognize, how can I honor myself more? How can I forgive parts of myself? Or how can I be able to look within and be able to truly start at least caring for that version of myself? So something that I did in that version of myself was, I recognized every single moment of every single day, whenever I feel a moment of judgment arise within when I look at myself in the mirror, I would separate that voice of judgment, and I would actually carry a little picture of myself when I was 5 years old, cute little bangs, and I carried it around everywhere with me. And I said, how would I talk to her? How would I look at her? How would I speak to her? And would I be embarrassed of her? And every day when I chose to look at that version of myself and talk to that version of myself, there was a softening and a level of safety that I created in my own body by knowing that I could inherently care for myself and protect myself against the old thoughts. I just looked at that picture and I just said, I love you. I think you're great. And then I would look at myself in the mirror every moment when I got a chance, be like, you're doing great. You're doing great. I love you. And it was a practice. And still, to this day, I still talk to myself that way. In the moments that I'm feeling a little nervous or a little scared, I give myself a hug, or I look at myself in the mirror and I say, you're doing so great, honey, keep going. And generally, we're often afraid of being judged for something that we have still held a belief around. Now, anytime I show up online and someone says something about the way that I look, I don't believe it to be true. The second fear that comes up most for my broadcast room clients is the fear of being misunderstood. Something that I actually have said many times on the internet is building safety in being misunderstood is one of the most incredible things you could ever do. And what do I mean by building safety in being misunderstood? When it comes to being misunderstood, the only person who needs to understand you is you and your client, you and your dream client. And at the end of the day, you believe that your voice matters, that the work you're doing matters, and that what you are saying is of purpose and intentional and meant for your dream client to hear. Now, the truth of the matter is that no matter what, somebody on the internet is going to misunderstand you. That's the reality of it, is that someone's not going to agree with you. Someone is not going to see you the way that you want to be seen or understand what you're doing. And a lot of times, even the people close to us might not understand what we're doing. I've had many times in my own life where I wanted to go out on my own, or I wanted to do the thing, and the people closest to me thought I was crazy. The people closest to me said, "You shouldn't do that. That's not safe. That's not a good idea." And to me, it was everything that my body was calling for, my soul was calling for, and I had to understand that it only needed to make sense to me. It only needed to feel good to me and for the people that I wanted to help. A lot of us are misunderstood. A lot of us are never truly going to be able to have someone see us the way that we see ourselves, or the work that we do, or the intention that we have. And when you recognize that every single person is showing up and speaking and communicating and typing on the internet through their lens on life, through their own past experiences, through their own belief of what they think is possible for them, or the rule book that they have been taught, or the things that they have been taught is either good or bad, they are going to project that out into the world. The most brave thing that we could ever do as humans, especially the ones that have big visions and big dreams and big goals, is to make sure that we are speaking to ourselves with the most amount of compassion, that we are honoring those parts of ourselves, and that when it comes to seeing a comment or someone disagreeing, that is coming through their lens on life. Now, I want to kind of bring you through an example or bring you through an actionable step for this actual particular part. Most people, when they are in the very beginning stages of entrepreneurship, and honestly even past that, they're taking in way too much information. They're taking in way too many comments, way too much scrolling, way too much consumption, and it's directly affecting how they show up in the world. It's directly affecting how they think about themselves, or if there's enough space for them, and how to kind of navigate through to get more visibility or to get it right. And when you take in all of these voices and all of this consumption, what your subconscious mind is going to do is it's going to try to prove that unconscious belief correct. And you are going to find so much more clarity and so much more confidence and so much more resilience when you put your blinders up, when you make that boundary between what you're willing to consume in the conversations that you have, in the podcasts that you're listening to, in the books that you're reading, in what you're consuming online, being able to create that safe container for yourself to be able to protect your energy and to recognize that your voice is always the loudest and it's the most compassionate and it's the one that's cheering you on the most. The third fear that comes up for my broadcast room clients is the fear of getting it wrong. I want to put this one all out on the table. There is no right and there is no wrong. There is no good, there is no bad, everything is neutral. We get to decide what we are making that experience. And so when we go into creating content, creating offers, having conversations with an undercurrent of I need to get it right so that I will either get the visibility that I want, so to get the views that I want, to get the sales that I want, to get the applause or the follows or anything on the other side of that, we have now created a lovely invitation for nervous system dysregulation. Because if there is any part of your body that fears something on the other side of the action you're about to take and that it could go bad, that is going to create a lot of protection that comes up. So that's when the nervous system all of a sudden will be like, oh, if you post this and you don't get it right and you don't get the sales or you don't get the likes, let's just protect you from that. Okay, let's just let's just pop up the wall, right? So all of a sudden, we're gonna start feeling, oh man, I'm a little tired. Oof, man. Or maybe I'll just scroll for a little while. Or maybe I will go clean the bathroom. Or maybe I will try to write down another strategy or create something, but maybe overthink it and the thought loops come up. That's all protection of the body saying, beep, beep. You know how you said there's a potential danger on the other side of what you're about to do? We're not going to want you to go there because your body's whole job is to keep you from perceived danger, perceived judgment, perceived failure, perceived upset. And when we navigate this fear of getting it wrong, the best thing you can do is say, okay, so what? So what's the worst thing that could happen? What is actually getting it wrong? What does that actually mean? Naming it is actually taking away its power. What is getting it wrong? Is it that we don't get the likes? Okay. What are we making that mean about ourselves? Is it we don't get the engagement? What are we making that mean about ourselves? If we don't get the sale, what are we making that mean about ourselves? Detaching any kind of story that you are putting on what wrong actually is takes the power away and allows you to be the author and the main character of what you want that story to actually be. Because once you have that awareness, you can then say, well, what would I want it to mean instead? I would want it to mean that, okay, it didn't perform as well. Let's investigate. Let's figure out why. Well, this one maybe did a little bit better and this one performed a little bit better. So let's investigate. Can I look at this data neutrally? Can I look at this with just basic information? Can I repost it with maybe a different hook? Can I repost it with a different energy when I'm feeling more relaxed? Maybe when I'm going for a walk instead of feeling like I have to be doing a script. So sit back, recognize where we're attaching that story of getting it wrong. How can I make this mean something different? I like to think about this as completing the sequence. So really naming what the fear actually is and calling it out and looking at it and figuring out, okay, so what if that happens? What would I like to do instead? How can I care for myself? Instead of making that the only thing to fear. Because when you take that power away, when you give it a name, when you replace the story and you do it from a new energy and then speak to yourself with that compassion, it's okay. It's okay. So what? It's okay. It's just a post. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm doing the best that I can. Let's try again. Let's go for a walk. Let's take a nap. Let's call a friend. Let's cry it out. Let's punch a pillow, whatever we got to do. Rage right. Get the energy out. Move the energy forward. And then if you feel ready, you can then go in through the lens of neutrality, suss out what we want to change, repost if it feels good, and try again. At a certain point, you're going to get to a stage where all data, the analytics, the likes, the opt-ins, the sales, it's data. And we don't have to make it mean anything about our worthiness or our goodness, our enoughness. It just gets to be something that we look at, build confidence in, and continue to move forward. Recently, one of my broadcast room clients celebrated her first troll. And she actually posted inside of the community and said, guys, let's celebrate. I was deeply misunderstood. And this is one of the things that I'm so proud of her for. And let's just be honest. If we all have gone through life completely avoiding any kind of confrontation or being misunderstood or getting called out, I just don't think that exists. I don't think that there's a single person I've ever met that has never once had someone say something about them. I mean, the amount of times that I could even say from even in middle school when the girls were writing notes behind my back, or there was a whole thing online about canceling this person or canceling this person. And what I want to navigate this conversation towards is the specific fear of what if somebody says something. Let's talk about the work that she did within herself to be able to post inside the community and say, we're celebrating my first troll. Now, the work that she had done was, number one, she knew for a fact that she would have to recognize, what am I afraid is going to happen if someone says something? What part of me believes that it's true? She had done the work within herself, within her nervous system, to say, what anyone says about me is only true if I believe it. If I don't believe a part of it, that is their perception of me. And she had worked with regulating her body, with her nervous system. Every single time she would show up, she would be able to be in this clear, grounded space, knowing that everything that she is saying is within her highest good, of integrity and in truth. She used her voice with power and so much love. And when somebody says something like a troll that points the finger at you or says something that is perceived as negative, that can bring up a lot of fear, because what if that person is disagreeing with me? What if I don't know how to communicate what I want to say? What if I feel hurt by that? All important things to navigate. And so what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to do something that will actually support you anytime that you show up. I want to circle back to what I had said previously about completing the sequence. I want you to write down every single thing that you are actually afraid of someone is going to say. If you post how you feel about something honestly, if you show up as your full authentic self, if you sell your product, if you talk about your product, if you say the things that maybe you were afraid to say, what comes up for you? What are the fears that you have? Write those all down. And we are now actually giving some awareness to what fears are coming up. Now, remember, the only thing that you need to do in that moment is be able to witness those things and then ask yourself, what part of me would that be speaking to? If someone said something about the way that I look, that I came across salesy, whatever the case is, what part of me is that? When I think about the 17-year-old version of myself or the 6-year-old version of myself, what version believes that on paper? And then we get to separate ourselves as the best friend, as the parent that we've always needed, as the safe space that we've always needed. And we can then speak to that version of ourselves and give them what they need. Please be gentle with yourself in this process, whether this requires a friend, a professional, whatever the case is, for you to be able to feel safe in that moment, to be able to really rely on the softness and the kindness and the love that needs to be in that exchange. Then from there, what I want you to do is ask yourself, what would I need afterwards? Would I need a hug? Would I need a friend? Would I need a warm bath? Would I need a nap? Would I need a walk? Would I need a hug? What would I need to be able to feel safe again in my body? And then one of my favorite things actually is a co-regulation process. When you decide to show up in your real, authentic energy and say the things that you've always wanted to say, you may need someone to hold space for you. And co-regulating is a really, really beautiful way of doing that. So whether you have a coach or a best friend or a business best friend, you can call them or message them and say, hey, I'm going to be saying something on the internet today. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to go live for the first time on Instagram or on TikTok, or I'm going to do my first podcast. Will you witness me? Will you comment? Will you support me? Will you be there with me while I do something brave? And knowing that you never have to do this alone, and especially the people inside of the broadcast room, that's why we have that community, is so that we can witness you doing the brave things, doing the bold things. And whatever comes up for you, whether it feels like you might need to take a beat for a day or you need a hug, we are there for you. Your voice is the most important thing. You are so valid and so loved and so seen and so important. And the work that you do really matters. And we need your light probably now more than ever in the world. So the work that you're doing on yourself is the most brave and beautiful thing. And I'm going to congratulate you, because I can guarantee you that you've already done some work on yourself. And I think that there's something that should be celebrated and witnessed in that moment, because that's the work that most people will never touch. But you're brave enough to do it.